Empaths, self-love is not selfish. Ready for this? Denying self-love is selfish. What? Stay with me and find out what I'm talking about because it sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? It sounded ridiculous to me too. First things first, welcome to Energy Healing TV and Podcast. I'm Robin Nutt, your host. It's great to meet you if this is your first time, and welcome back to all of you who have been with me for a while now. So, as you know, we go through a few step process, right? 7 steps, which each have 3 of their own that are kind of combined and intertwined and fit together, yeah? So 7 of the chakras, 7 energies of the best you. And then, since I am the lead soul guided instructor for the Spiritual Business YouTubers Network with Iona Mead, I incorporate the 7 freedoms that Iona teaches on, right? That she guides us through in her journaling process. It's a beautiful process. We could take it as deep as you want to go. I just kind of let a spirit guide me through, right? So sometimes it's brief and sometimes it's deeper. You'll hear what you need to hear. It will trigger what it needs to trigger for you. And that will give us the opportunity to see where we need to start, right? So hang tight and let's go for this ride together. And I feel like it is a ride because I was trying to take notes on this one. And I'm like, are you serious? Because this feels challenging and difficult. And how can this be? And then it really, my human finally went, oh, got it. So hopefully I can explain it in human words so that you can also say, oh, got it. First step first, let me pull this up so you have a visual like I do if you are watching on video. The belief system, right? So if many of you are like me as an empath and with those life experiences where we were raised in spaces of feeling all kinds of things that we couldn't explain and then having that reaction back from others that excuse me wasn't understanding or open, or there was more kind of that dictating of what we needed to do when we found ways to survive those situations, right? And part of that survival was denying our self-care, denying our self-love in the ways that we knew how, or the ways that we might have understood, or the ways that we tried to offer it to others, the ways that we tried to help other people. Excuse me. Clearing out the throat chakra, right? Time to get rid of another layer. Love it. I don't want to lose myself though. Okay, so in those experiences, we started to formulate beliefs, right, in the root chakra. Excuse me. And those beliefs in the root chakra determine then how we show up and contribute as a human being in every role in our life, right? So the contribution freedom part, because we want to be free to contribute and show up as our true self, yeah? Not just in the ways that we were taught and pushed and pulled and dictated and learned to survive. Surviving is a grand thing, of course. We all need and want to survive, but we also want to thrive and do more. So we want to have that freedom to contribute and just be and feel free to be and okay to be and safe to be who we determine that we are, yeah? And not just from those old program beliefs, but through that healing process and releasing some of those beliefs that aren't even true, right? They're not even true. So there's twofold. There are different ways that we can formulate beliefs when we have those experiences in our childhood and our lives where we are learning to survive, when we're feeling all kinds of things that we can't explain, and when we start to learn that in our survival, we're denying ourselves to help other people, right? Because we have to match and do for others. We're not allowed to do or be for self. In that process, I can go 2 ways or a combination of both. And the beliefs I start to have for myself, meaning like, I'm not worthy enough. I don't matter. It's not about me. I can't take care of me because I'm required to do this for these, other person, whether it's emotionally or physically or however that may look in your own life experience. For me, it was mostly emotionally. And I could flip over and start to integrate that or believe another way, whether I realize it or not. This one caught me, you guys. In my journey, when I was had this belief that it was up to me, right? That responsibility of being an empath, that I had to be the one to help. And I was responsible for other people's feelings. I was responsible, not seeing how that was also saying I was all powerful and controlling them. What, am I a puppet master? No, of course not. I didn't feel powerful. But yet we start to formulate that belief too, like, I am responsible, which is also saying I am that powerful, that I need to fix other people's things and deny myself. This is where it gets the little tricky part. What I mean by it's selfish to not have love for self is the selfish part is for our ego, right? So, are you all used to the ego talk? We talk about ego coming from the space of fear, like down in the root chakra where it starts the survival modes, right? Fight, flight, freeze responses, learning how to, it's just fear based, all about the humanness experience. So when I deny myself love, when I deny my own healing, when I deny myself an opportunity to clear and release those old beliefs, heal those old wounds so that I can actually show up and be me, right? Like all of me, as I say, then it helps to feed that ego. It helps to keep the ego alive. It helps drive the ego. The ego gets to stay where it's at. The ego gets to still say, yep, you're unworthy, or it's up to you. You're responsible in that root chakra, in that belief to keep it in this life experience with me in this lifetime, this lifetime. Not to say it's in the past because it's still here with me now. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. So moving then into, because this one goes back and forth as well, right? All kinds of emotions in our sacral chakra that affect our health, both physical, emotional, and mental. Yeah. So when I have these beliefs again about whether I'm worthy and I'm good enough and that I matter to take care of me, or that I start to have that belief that I'm responsible. Um, and again, we may or may not get into the powerful. I'm going to save that for the solar plexus chakra, though, to bring it in there. But we do have those emotions and we have that push and pull because we also feel other people's emotions, right? So whether I'm identifying and recognizing what's mine and what's somebody else's, what am I taking care of or am I not? Am I trying to avoid it and hide from it? What am I doing with it? What am I feeling? Let's start there, right? Let's start to identify what I feel, what you feel. It's okay to say, I am feeling anxious. And maybe it doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why I'm feeling anxious. And maybe I'll find out that it wasn't my own anxiety, that I was picking up anxiety from the energy around me, whether it's somebody right next to me, whether it's someone online, whether it's, throughout the world, because there's so many things going on right now, right? And maybe it made its way to me or I was open enough in that moment that I felt it, or it just caught me off guard because it was so intense. Either way, we don't always understand it. That's the mental part, our thought process, right? We don't always understand it, but we know that it comes and it comes into our awareness in some way or another. And usually as a human, it seems to come in by an emotion, some form of feeling, could become physical, right? Health freedom. So as I've shared before, if you guys have been with me for a while, stress for me can act up in my stomach, the tightness in my jaw, right? The tightness in the neck and the shoulders where I use a lot of or hold a lot of stress. Those can form the physical health as well, right? And then it cycles because when I physically don't feel well, then I feel more anxious or down and stressed because it's harder to get up and move during the day, right? So again, when I'm not taking care of myself, when I'm not showing myself that love, then I'm feeding that cycle. Again, I'm feeding that ego, not intentionally. I'm not purposely saying here, and I'm not saying that the ego is terrible, right? We beat the heck out of our ego. But the humanness that we typically want to heal, because the humanness, in a sense, is a wounded human. So we're trying to heal all those spaces, right? All those pieces, all those wounds, all those injuries, reprogram, release the old program beliefs to bring in something new, something different, something loving. Yeah, being on that spiritual journey, as we call it, even though we know it's a human journey, but to heal our humans, like kind of our purpose of being here in this lifetime. We deny that opportunity, though, when we only focus outwards on other people, right? When I'm not allowing myself to love right here first. And I'm saying, no, because I'm so strong. And maybe I think I'm not that strong, but I'm going to do it anyway. Or I love you enough. I love you so much that there is so much passion there that I want to take care of you that I deny myself, right? But then how am I showing up to take care of you when I've denied myself? So how good am I when my emotions are all wonky because I didn't have love for myself? How is my sacral chakra and the energy in my sacral chakra, how is it coming up, and flowing into my solar plexus and the rest of me when I'm not taking care of myself, when I'm not allowing that love for myself? What is my health, physical, mental, and emotional going to look like when I deny myself that love? Yeah. I don't mean the egoic love. And I think that's sometimes where we get hung up. I don't mean the heck with other people. It's all about you and love you, right? So we're going to get there. We'll keep moving up our chakras. We'll move through the 7 energies and the 7 freedoms, right? See what that looks like. I invite you as well, of course. Like, subscribe, and comment. Regardless of when you watch this or listen to this, comment. Let me know what resonates with you, what your experience is, whatever you're comfortable with sharing. But let's have a conversation. Let's really get to know each other. I'm excited for the journey and that you're on it with me. And I say that because you're here. So next one up, big one too, right? Self-esteem, solar plexus chakra, and emotional freedom. So with those life experiences, gaining those beliefs that we touched on, whether either side, whether we feel unworthy and insignificant and that we feel responsible to take care of or help and I don't want to say fix, but in a sense fix other people's problems or situations or be that supporter and be that loving person, regardless of which side. And maybe it's both. We can have a combination of both. We have more than one belief, right? When you think of a tree and the roots flowing out and our root chakra, that's like a lot of different beliefs is rooted within us, right? So what if we internalize through that journey, feeling that what we feel, what have we internalized that sits in our solar plexus chakra? When we say I am, what's coming after it, right? I had to catch myself on this one a few years ago when I first was learning about energy and energy healing and the term healer, right? Because we say like that label is used as like a title. So when I went to school for years for social work, then when I was in the field, right, that was like my title. I am a social worker. We do the same with healer. I am a healer. Yeah. Our minds are tricky. So I want to share this danger, if you will. And I find that statement could be dangerous. Technically, I believe we are all a healer. We heal ourselves, right? With that relationship with God, pure spirit, universe, whatever name you give. Within that relationship, we are a healer and we heal ourselves. We can be a conduit and hold that space and be open for that healing to come through us for someone else if they're willing to receive it, right? So I'm speaking of like Reiki healing, energy healing, even a doctor's office, right? Ultimately, we have a choice if we go see a doctor to take their medical advice or not. It's up to us. They can't force it upon us. We choose, don't we? Kind of the same concept. However, when I become the title of, say, a healer, a Reiki healer, Reiki master teacher is what I tend to use, allowing those words to have a meaning that should not apply, meaning I'm not the healer for you. I don't heal you, right? I don't heal you. You heal you. I hold the space for you to heal, right? I'm not the one who does it. And I've seen and heard, become aware that that statement can be taken out of context because ego loves to do that with us, right? Our humanness loves to do that. I don't know that it's intentional, but it seems to happen that way. Or we can twist things around just a little bit, yeah, and make it a big thing. So I caution us all, regardless of what the title may be, judge, juror, healer, social worker, right? Doesn't matter, whatever it may be, doctor. Sometimes people say doctors have a God complex. We have to be careful on that energy in the solar plexus that it doesn't overinflate. The spectrum is big, isn't it? We can go from one end of feeling like nothing, no one, helpless, hopeless, all the things, or none of the things, to the complete extreme of all powerful, I'm the whole universe and I'm God and pure spirit, which we are. But when I overinflate it, that's humanness, which sits in the solar plexus chakra, which affects our self-esteem and overinflates the self-esteem. It now becomes gunk we have to clear, and we have to watch how we show up and contribute in that space, right? We have to watch the emotions, because also that then puts a lot of pressure on self, right? Because now if I'm in that type of space, feeling like I'm the healer and I can heal and I can do this, and I'm, trying to be that healer for you, and something happens to you that it didn't turn out the way I wanted it, me personally in my humanness, because there's a highest good that's above our humanness, right? When it doesn't turn out the way my humanness wanted it to, then what happens? Then I take myself out, so to speak, right? I'm down and out and depressed and beating myself up because I didn't do it. I didn't heal it. And it wasn't for me to heal anyway. So that self-love is also saying, that's not mine to take. Don't put that baggage on yourself, right? Don't beat yourself up with that. Don't internalize that. Don't put those labels on yourself. Don't try to be something you're not, or take on the things that you're not, and not in a bad way, because you're amazing and you're beautiful and you have so much to offer and you're a great person and you're doing all the work. But there's that balance in there. Have that love for self, but not the love of self where it's like overinflated. Yeah. So I went on a tangent here, and I see there's a comment. So let me come over and say hello. Hi, Diana. Thanks for joining me on the live you're on Facebook. Thanks for joining me on Facebook. Yep, have to take care of yourself and your needs before you help others. Exactly. So we talk about, and we hear in the communities about, it starts with us, right? It starts with you. Collective healing starts with you. We hear it, and skip it and deny it and don't do it, right? Then we look away from self and want to try to take care of everyone else. And it does start here. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for being here. Which will move into the next one, right? Transformation in the heart chakra, and speaking on environmental freedom in the Soul Legacy Journal. So let me flip my pages over here because I took a few little notes. Because as you see, I'll just flow and go. Come back. That transformation does happen in the heart chakra, right? So the heart chakra is a space where the energy from the lower chakras come up and meet, comes up and around in the higher chakras, back down, right? I've talked about the infinity sign or figure 8, where it like crosses that energy, in a sense, crosses over right here in the heart chakra, right? It's not separate. The energies aren't separate. That flow isn't separate. Our human as ego self is not separate from our spirit self, right? It's just the energy vibrates at a different frequency. So meeting ourselves with compassion, having that love for self and others, being love, having that compassion, noticing the difference, having the boundaries. So we've talked before about how the love, there's unconditional love for us, you and me, right? Me and you. We're not picking and choosing. It's not one or the other. However, you can't truly have, with a bunch of humans, you can't have unconditional love without boundaries. And the boundaries have conditions, don't they? When we, and I say this meaning not in human form, when we, or at least not yet in human form, can be in that vibrational space of unconditional love, all of us, this other stuff won't even exist anymore, right? it won't be necessary, it won't exist, because we won't have that lower vibrational on the humanness to push and pull and do all the things it does in our human life experience. But we're still here as a human being in this human meat suit, as some call it. So we're still having the human life experience during this lifetime on this earth in this frequency that we are. So reminding ourselves that the unconditional love is for both of us. So we're not picking and choosing. It's not Darwinism. It's not survival of the fittest in this moment. It's about, how can I act, right? The action. What actions can I take, whether it's mentally, emotionally, physically, but what actions can I take that support unconditional love for both of us? Yeah. So if you do come to me and you're asking me for some support, am I in the right space to give it to you? Right? Can I hold that space, be that support for you without harming myself or anyone else? Can I show up and offer that support in a way that won't be harmful to you, that will be in your best interest, right? That's part of self-love too. That's considering our own well-being and considering the well-being of another. Saying no to someone else is self-love and love for them too. Because again, if I'm down and out, having a rough day, but my ego is still saying, "Oh, but you have to. You're a healer. You have to help them. They matter, right? It's your job, it's your duty. You're an empath. You do, whatever the ego wants to say, to try to say, you have to, because you're so powerful and you're just so needed, and you hear the overinflated pieces in that. You're so powerful and you're so needed, and you just have to deny the self-care for the day. You take care of yourself later, okay? You need to show up and fix this for them." What does that sound like? That's not self-love at all. And that's not love for somebody else either, because I'm sorry, if that's not the space I want someone to show up for me either, right? I might need help, but none of it's going to turn out icky. But that feeds the ego. So we're denying the self-care and the self-love. So it seems, but we're feeding we're feeding the love for the ego. We're supporting the ego by saying, "Okay, yeah, I'm going to show up. I'm going to put my superhuman cape on, my super ego cape on, and show up and help and fix and heal and do all the things," right? No. It's kind of what I mean by not having love for self is selfish. Selfish in the way that we feed that ego. We stroke the ego, so to speak. We support the ego saying, "Yeah, you're right. We have to put whatever part of self, spirit, self aside so that my ego can get what it needs today." Mm, mm. Let me know how that sits with you. My head is like buzzing again. So I hope I'm saying it in a way that makes sense. Next one up, throat chakra. And they each flow and intertwine, don't they? So each step up, we start in the root chakra, we flow it, we go all the way up. So root chakra, again, are those beliefs, right? Moves into the sacral chakra of emotions and the solar plexus chakra of self-esteem, and then into the heart chakra for transformation, meeting it with compassion and unconditional love for us, right? Us together. Up into now the throat chakra. And again, if you've been with me, we've talked before about what truth do we speak from? Do I speak from my humanist truth? Do I speak from the space of ego? Do I speak from the space of the lower vibrational chakras? Or am I speaking from the higher vibrational chakras? Am I speaking from soul and pure spirit? Am I speaking from unconditional love for both of us? Am I speaking with love for self and love for you? Yeah? Big questions, big questions. And I wanted to mention, so I'm glad I made notes and checked, how I communicate with myself also affects the energy in my throat chakra. So even though solar plexus chakra is a space, like in our aura, it matches that space of our thought processes and our mental mental activity, if you will, mental energy, our thoughts, plays a role in our throat chakra and how we speak to ourselves. So how I express myself to myself matters, because how I express myself to myself is going to determine how I project myself outwardly. So do I speak to myself in a way? It reminds me of, have you seen that like cartoon where it has the little angel on one side and the little devil on the other side, right? So when you're met in a situation, you've got both sides kind of going at you. So it's almost like having this mental banter with yourself, or this mental argument or debate with yourself. You should do this, and no, you should do this. And basically it's like saying one is coming from the unconditional love pure spirit, the other is coming from your ego space, right? We do that. We do. We speak to ourselves all the time. How do you speak to yourself? How? And are you honest with yourself? Because there are times when I am not. I didn't notice that right away. I didn't always realize that I wasn't being honest with myself. I didn't always realize or have the awareness that I used to beat myself up a lot. I didn't always have the awareness that I talked to myself in the same ways that I experienced when I was younger. So all the ways that I did not like to be spoken to, I did it to myself. All the ways that I would not allow myself to be spoken to now, like outwardly, physically from another human being, I spoke to myself that way. And I let myself get away with it all the time. All the time. I didn't challenge it. I didn't challenge it at all. I didn't tell myself to stop. I didn't change it. I didn't know I could change it. I didn't know I could change it. It just went like on automatic pilot. I didn't understand how it worked. I didn't understand the energy in each of the chakras. I didn't understand how these beliefs created some of these thought patterns and how I repeated these thought patterns. Whether the words changed or not, the patterns stayed the same. Learning all of that was very eye-opening, right? But how do you speak to you? Do you speak with love to yourself? Or are you hard on yourself? Do you remind yourself that it's okay to feel, that it's okay and safe to be who you are, who you want to be outwardly, right? I'm just going to use this for an example. It's just the one that came up. I absolutely love animals, right? Pets, if you don't want to call them that, animals, dogs, cats, strays that showed up at the house, right? And I befriended them, were my best friends when I was a kid. I didn't always allow that part of me to be known. I didn't always share that. I kind of hid it. I was ashamed by it. I was embarrassed by it, right? Might sound simple, might sound easy, like it sounds simple to me now. It sounds fine now, right? Now that I've healed through it and moved through it, now I have absolutely no problem for people to know that my best friends were animals. Dogs, cats, mainly, some rabbits, just what we had in my physical environment at the time, right? The relationship with animals was much stronger, much more loving than the relationship I had with humans. Much stronger, much more loving than I had with humans. I'm not ashamed to share that anymore, but there were times in my life where I just kept that to myself, right? Because I felt like a misfit and I felt like an oddball. And I felt like if I shared that, that just kind of proved that I was an oddball, right? That I'm socially awkward. Um, I didn't realize till recently that I was socially awkward. Weird. Like, that we have to label and title everything, but just for myself and how I feel, how uncomfortable it feels, feeling all that energy, right? Being around people who don't think and feel and see things the way that I do. So you're trying to like fit in and be normal, right? Fit in and be normal. When you think of all of those things, right? Take that into consideration for a moment. With that perspective, what kind of language then, what kind of communication then did it take to have that, to support that, to believe that? How was I speaking to myself to hide the relationship I had with animals? Right? Like, I don't know all the words right now, and I'm trying to see if a memory pops in to share, and it's not. But imagine what you would have to tell yourself. Don't share that. What, you believe in aliens? What? Shh. Shh. Don't tell anyone. They'll think you're crazy. What do you mean you felt that? What do you mean you knew something bad was going to happen? You could feel it. Shh. Don't tell no one. Don't tell anybody, right? What was that communication like with self? And then, of course, it's going to affect how we communicate with others as well, right? But for today, I just felt really strongly that we needed to think about how we communicate with ourselves, and that it does affect the energy in our throat chakra. The throat chakra deals with our truth, speaking our truth, whether it's our humanness truth or our highest truth, our soul truth, our spirit truth. What are we speaking? And do we speak to ourselves in the same manner that we speak to others? I used to, so up and down, because I also in my lifetime, period of my lifetime, would speak just as harsh to other people as I spoke to myself. And then I changed, healed, shifted, learned differently, and had more compassion for other people and could speak kinder with more compassion to others and not myself, right? So it's been a phase, a journey, a process of healing for sure. And having this energy healing lifestyle, which I'm trying to share with you so you could do for you as well and incorporate it, helps me still move through those processes and reprogram and talk to myself as compassionately and loving as I talk to others, right? Can you imagine how I would show up for you after I just beat myself up? I just spent 3 hours beating the hell out of myself, but let me show up here and be kind and loving for you, right? Like, how is that self-love? How is that love for you? Is it? I mean, I'm sure we could do it. I'm sure we've done it. We've learned how to hide and kid ourselves and kid other people, but it's really not genuine, is it? It's really not that authentic, is it? Certainly not unconditional love for us. So moving up one more, in the observer mode, the third eye or brow chakra, part of our spiritual freedom. And it's that when I think now of spiritual freedom, see, when Iona first taught about spiritual freedom, my first thoughts were my beliefs, because my beliefs are a little different than my family and most of my friends in my local area, right? So to me, spiritual freedom meant that I could openly share or practice or just feel safe to believe what I believe without being attacked, right? And I don't mean physically, but fortunately, I'm lucky enough that I had not had to deal with physical attacks, just like verbal, energetic attacks. Not downplaying or minimizing those because they hurt too, but just saying, when I first thought of spiritual freedom, that's what I thought of, like just feeling safe enough to be able to have this conversation, right? Without wondering, like, who's going to comment? Who's going to make that comment? Who's going to come at me? Who's going to say it has to be this way? Who's going to tell me I'm wrong this time, right? But it's more than that. The spiritual freedom is having my energy centers clear enough, allowing myself to be in the energy and space to receive that unconditional love from God, pure spirit, source, universe, whatever name you use for you, right? We get to choose. But allowing that to come through without blocking it, that's spiritual freedom. Speaking my highest truth is spiritual freedom. Being in the space of the energy of pure spirit is spiritual freedom. Not having my humanness ego blocking all the things, right? That negative, egoic mind chatter. Being able to silence or quiet that it doesn't stop completely, but somewhat silence and quiet, that voice is more spiritual freedom. Let me know if that makes sense. I'm beaming in it right now. Like I physically feel it. It's amazing. And then in that spiritual freedom, being able to be in that energy, in that space, to be the observer. Yeah. So whether it's the observer in the sense of when we talk about our third eye and it opens up those clairs, whether it's being able to see energies, feel energies, hear energies, right? Hear that higher voice, or the observer of my human, just kind of not outside of me. I don't necessarily mean like completely dissociating or being outside of my body, hanging out like I'm flying the kite of my soul. I don't mean it like that. It's a hilarious visual I just had, though. I'm not going to lie. Walk around with my soul. Anyway, I have a silly sense of humor. But to be able in that energy space to see, like, oh, there's that humanist chatter, or oh, that's an intense emotion, and being able to process without getting sucked down into the humanness and the humanist emotions and thoughts and cycles and of negative thought patterns that I've had, right? And still working through. I'm not going to deny that they still exist, because they do, but they don't push and pull me like they used to, right? So being able to be in that observer mode, to being able to not look down at it. It's not that we're above. This is not feeding more ego-ness. It's just the different vibration of it. It's being able to have the awareness without being shoved down into depression because of it. It's being able to have the awareness without being super anxious because of it, right? It's about being able to have that awareness without being so deeply triggered that you feel like you're right there again, right? You can see that you're affected by it. You can see that you have the emotion of it. You can see where it comes from, maybe or maybe not, but you'll take some time to take a look at that if you're feeling okay with it. But you have that ability to do so because the energy is clearing, we're healing, and we're moving through each of those steps and each of those processes. Yeah. We're having that love for self as we love others. Then last and not least, crown chakra. Yeah. Unconditional love. Again, that energy of unconditional love for us, all of us, pure spirit collective, whatever names you give, whatever words you choose, doesn't matter. Same thing. I see it at least as the same thing, just different names. You know, some people call me mom, some people call me Robin, some people call me grandma, right? It's still me. It's still me. Our relationship might be a little different. My role might be a little different. It's still me. Having that unconditional love for self and others. And again, we're not beating down the ego either. We're not beating on our humanness self either. It's not blame, shame, and guilt, right? When we recognize that, oh snap, I was feeding my ego, I was in my humanness, my self-esteem was overflated. I was stepping in like I was some superhero, and it wasn't even my place to step in, right? That's not for me to do. It's just not. When I can have that awareness with the unconditional love, give myself grace, be aware of it, take that as the cue to be like, okay, again, I'm not beating down my humanness or my ego. I'm just having love for it. I can appreciate the intention. I can appreciate that even though you weren't thinking that, oh, I'm so wonderful and fabulous and powerful and control, and I'm just going to go wave my magical wand and fix the world, and because it's me, and all of that. That wasn't the intention or the space that I thought it was coming from, although it is ultimately what we're saying. I can appreciate and have love for the part that said, oh man, I felt so passionate that I wanted to help. I just wanted to do everything I could to help. And that's okay. That's great. That's a great space to come from, to love so much, to want to help. I'm not healed wherever that comes from. I still have that protectiveness in me. I still have that. I get triggered by that still. Layers, working on the layers. And it's not to say that I am so strong. It's not intentionally saying, let me be accurate in my words here, my choices of words. It's not saying intentionally saying, I'm so powerful and strong, and I can, take on the world to protect you and save you and rescue you. Even though when that gets triggered and how I show up, because, it's like that flush of, I don't know, ego probably, flush of whatever that's, okay, I'm there, I'm going to protect. That's kind of what it's saying. But in that moment, the intention is, I'll do everything I can to protect you. I love you and I'll do everything I can to protect you. And there's so much passion and desire in that I'm going to show up like this superhuman that I'm not, right? So it's interesting when you're able to observe these things with love. Again, with love. I'm not beating myself up. I'm not going to be like, oh my gosh, how dare you? How dare you think you're all that? Because it's just more ego stuff right there. Just more ego stuff, right? The ego can twist either way, either side. So just having that awareness and meeting it with compassion and love for self and others. And also because when we got triggered, did the others have a similar experience, right? Were they triggered too? So sometimes we have to be mindful and watch before we pass a judgment on someone else, right? But I'll save that for another conversation. Sorry, my antivirus thing just popped up and blocked me out. But in this video, the self-love. Self-love is necessary. It's not selfish. Denying self-love is selfish in that we feed the ego, humanness, part of self. Another example. So part of Iona's Soul Legacy Journal, Cheers to Financial Freedom, right? So Sunday, she talks about financial freedom. With all the things we just covered today, think about this in the aspect of money as well, because we do this with money. I had a tendency, past tense, watching my language, right? Had a tendency to put my hand up. Nope, I will help for free. Nope, you don't owe me anything. Nope, I don't want to put you out. Nope, I will feel bad if I take your money. Not that you can't afford it. Not that, it's not that I want to be disrespectful and not honor the gift or the energy exchange that you're offering me, but that icky belief, similar thing, assuming that self-love is selfish and I don't want to be selfish, so I'm not going to take your money. How is that selfish? Because now I'm stressing out because we're humans living in this human society, which everything practically costs money. Pretty darn close to everything costs money, right? The air I breathe doesn't quite yet, excuse me, but food costs money, water costs money, yeah, everything. Heat, lights, being here, internet, it all costs money. So to deny myself the financial freedom means I'm creating more stress on myself, right? I'm supporting the humanness part of me that is denying my love for self to stay in those humanness conditioned program beliefs of not worthy, or you can manage without. You'll be fine without. You don't have to have, you know what? If you cut every corner, if you skimp in all these ways, you would be okay. So you don't have to take it because you know you can do without. You know you can live as a minimalist. I've done this. I've told myself this. I've tried to live by this. Live minimally, and you won't have to do that. You can offer that and you can give that free, and how great of you that will be. Yeah, it was great until I got down to the nothing, right? You can only give away so much, and then you have no more to give. And then now what? Now you're no good to yourself or someone else, right? That works the same with finances. Whether we like it or not, we live in a society that costs money, right? Things cost money. We can barter. It still costs somebody money. first, but we can exchange energy in a bartering system. Maybe. But yet I will say that, let's say if you had a beautiful coat and I offered a service and we were going to barter, that's great. But if I already have 10 coats and no electricity, right, the bartering system didn't really give what we needed. So somebody's still stressing out, right? So we have to be mindful of that. So I like that the financial freedom comes in the time and space on the day, however you want to, step 7, crown chakra, unconditional love, because the energy of money has unconditional love spiritually. So the spiritual energy of money, I said that kind of awkwardly, the spiritual energy of money is unconditional love. In that aspect, it is just an exchange of energy. Yeah. Sometimes we show love by offering money, tithing, providing gifts, right? That's a way that we love. We've just distorted, we humanness, ego stuff, low vibrational stuff, has distorted it. The tribal energy of money has become icky. Yeah. Then we have those beliefs like the root of all evil is money, or money is the root of all evil. It doesn't have to be. It's how we as humans choose to use it, right? And we can have financial freedom. That doesn't mean we're greedy, but we don't have to do without everything either. Freedom just means that. It's a nice, even, clean, clear flow, inflow and outflow of energy. So I hope that makes sense. And again, saying it again, self-love is not selfish. Denying self-love is selfish, meaning we feed the ego the same stuff. Whatever it's coming from, the fears, the denials, maybe it's overinflated, the power control, we feed all of that by denying ourselves love. I think we covered everything we needed to cover for today. Thank you so much for being here with me. If you would like to join us in the community or at the Energy Healing School, there are links in the comments section or links in the description. Please check that out. Again, give a like, subscribe, share. And I look forward to seeing you next week, next Wednesday, for our next weekly TV and podcast video. So much love to you. Take good care.